Good evening and welcome to the San Bruno City Council meeting of February 24th, 2015. I'd like to thank the Garden Club for the flowers they always provide for our meetings. Roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Here.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Here.
Mayor Ruane.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
I see Nancy Krause is here from the San Bruno Community Foundation. Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There aren't any specific announcements this evening. We do have a presentation. We're going to receive the introduction of the San Bruno Community Foundation's newly appointed Executive Director, Leslie Hadamia. Nancy?
Good evening, Mayor Ruane and members of the City Council. I am Nancy Krause, President of the Board of Directors of the San Bruno Community Foundation, and here with me also for this introduction is our Vice President, John McLaughlin. Thank you very much for including us on your agenda this evening. When I presented a report to you last September on behalf of the Foundation, I shared that the Board was in the process of recruiting for the Foundation's first Executive Director. Working with the 360 Group, the Board conducted a national recruitment to identify qualified candidates for this position. We were presented with a highly impressive pool of candidates to consider. The screening and interviews were lengthy and the vetting process extensive and thorough. One candidate emerged above the others as having the perfect combination of experience in the public, nonprofit, political, and private sectors, coupled with energy and vision. And to the great fortune of the city and the foundation, the candidate has a sense of the San Bruno community, having resided and volunteered in San Bruno for 12 years. Indeed, her ties to San Bruno reach back to World War II, when her mother and grandparents were among the Japanese Americans interned at the Assembly Center on the site of what are now the shops at Tan Foran. Leslie Hadamia is a graduate of Stanford University and Stanford Law School. She has more than 2 decades of experience in building organizations and programs. Her references are impeccable and consistent in praising her work ethic and motivation to get the job done. And in just a few weeks on the job, she has given clear evidence of what that work ethic is. At our board meeting last week, we accomplished a very full agenda she had developed to move us forward with our operational and programmatic planning. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you Leslie Hadamia, the Executive Director of the San Bruno Community Foundation.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm excited and honored to serve San Bruno as the first Executive Director of the San Bruno Community Foundation. I believe that the foundation offers an amazing opportunity for our community to really make meaningful and lasting change and impact in our community in the aftermath of the tragedy of September 2010. This is a responsibility that both the foundation board and I take very seriously, and in my first 3 weeks on the job, I have already begun to lay the foundation for a well-governed and well-managed and fully functioning nonprofit organization to carry out its mission. In the coming months, we'll be reaching out to you, the City Council, and the broader San Bruno community to hear your thoughts on what are the critical needs facing our community and how we can best put these funds to use. The community outreach will inform the creation of our grant-making and investment strategies to ensure that we are properly managing and properly dispersing the funds with which we have been entrusted. And I look forward to working with you so that we can build a foundation that will serve and benefit our community for the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. And we all, the entire community of San Bruno, look forward to working with you and the foundation. It's a real one-off, very special thing that's never really been done before. And so we're going to walk along with you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Item 5, review of the agenda. If it's all right, I'd like to move item 11, which is our annual report from the Traffic Safety and Parking Committee, to right after number 8, public hearings. Any other changes on the agenda? Item number 6, approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of February 10th, 2015, and special council meeting of February 10th, 2015. Any errors, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, they'll be approved as submitted. Consent calendar, all items are considered routine or implemented earlier council action and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested by a council member, citizen, or staff. Any action on the consent calendar?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second on the consent calendar. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 8, public hearings. There are no public hearings this evening. We'll go right to item number 11, which is our annual report from the Traffic Safety and Parking Committee.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, good. Good evening. My name is Jessica Barnes-Lopez. I'm the chair of the San Bruno Traffic Safety and Parking Committee. This year, we anticipated a lot of changes, a lot of challenges with the grade separation project, with the newly voted in change to downtown with the height restrictions. So we're proud to say that we've accomplished quite a bit this year. This is the list of the committee members. My name is Jessica Barnes-Lopez, as you know. My vice chair, Mark Howard. Committee members, Eric Wood, Tom Hamilton, and Tim Ross. Our staff support is Jimmy Tan, Joseph Cervantes, and Police Lieutenant Troy Fry. So, about 2-3 years ago, we started building a process for applying for changes, right? For applying for stop signs, crosswalks. We now have the kit, which shows the application. It shows what requirements you need to meet for a stop sign, rather than just getting a lot of applications for stop signs for speeding, right? So it lays it out a little more clearly. We've also adopted a preferred crosswalk. As you'll see in the bottom picture, we're trying to stick with the ladder design, and that's really because children seem to be more responsive around their schools when that ladder design is out there. So one of the small things that we've worked on this year. This year, to engage the community, we've sent out mailers. We, of course, have the website, which has our city staff contact information. We hold our public meetings. And this year, we've had 27 residents provide input. We've had many people at our meetings, but a good feedback from about 27 residents and business owners this year. This year, we've been able to perform an analysis for the all-way stop intersection near along Walnut Street and San Mateo Avenue, and this is one of the after effects of the grade separation project, where we've also worked on the 700 block of San Mateo Avenue, installing red curb striping and blue curb striping at 880 San Mateo Avenue. Huntington Avenue, there was also installation of blue curb striping at the American Legion Hall, which that was a surprise to everyone because it turned out when the streets were put together, one street just cut off at the American Legion, and they would be losing their handicap spot and their loading zone. So we just reconfigured so they would have their spot back and not block traffic. San Mateo Avenue and Huntington Avenue, we've had red curb striping as well. And the 700 block of First Avenue, red curb striping at the cul-de-sac, which is pending City Council review. This year we had the consideration of the special parking permit district, which was around the new Caltrain station. That was brought forth with concerns from the neighborhood that once the Caltrain station was moved, there would be less residential parking. So we did go through a process of perhaps having this parking permit area. We've also had traffic calming along Oakmont Drive. This is, again, pending implementation, but This will involve placement of center lines, speed limit painted on the roadway, installation of edge lines, and coordination with Monteverde School to remind parents to comply with the posted speed limits. The plaza development at 406 San Mateo Avenue, we had a consideration of a loading zone and traffic impacts for the proposed mixed-use development in downtown, and this is something we plan to deal with as it's built as well. We had quite a lot to do with Shelter Creek Lane this past year. There was a lot of public input about speed limit signs. We had the analysis for the maximum speed limit, and the feedback we've gotten is very good. People appreciate having a bit of control in their neighborhood. We've also had improvements to Acacia Avenue, where, again, public input. There was an installation of a yield sign at Angus Avenue and an installation of speed advisory signs to encourage safer speeds. Most recently, we've had the SFPUC regulator project, which was a consideration of parking restrictions to allow for 24/7 maintenance access. This is pending city council review, but this one's kind of easy. Basically, maintenance doesn't have access to where they need to get 24 hours. Somebody could be parked there and they won't be able to get to it to fix it. So, goals for 2015, we will continue to use the applicable adopted policies in reviewing requests for parking restrictions, stop signs, traffic calming, participate in the development of the bicycle and pedestrian master plan, finalize parking study for the grade separation project, conduct parking study for San Mateo Avenue north of San Bruno Avenue, collect feedback from neighborhoods that previously received traffic calming improvements, and address impacts from the grade separation project and downtown developments. This is our contact information. You can, of course, report any traffic issues to the Department of Public Services or send an email through our website. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. As we say here to all of our boards and commissions and committees, you're really the lifeblood of this community because you're all volunteer. A lot of people don't see what you do because you meet in the evenings and you're out in the streets during the day. So it's very, very important because you do a wonderful job. So please pass that on to the rest of the committee members.
Absolutely, and we are so glad to do it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Item number 9 is public comment on items not on this agenda. It is the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and/or action where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state law. Would anyone like to address the council on items not on this agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll go right to conduct of business. Item 10A, receive a quarterly financial update report as of December 31st, 2014, and adopt resolution approving a mid-year amendment for the 2014-15 general fund, special revenue funds, enterprise funds, and capital improvement budgets. Angela. Put your mic on, Angela. There you go.
Never fails. The city's mid-year budget report is prepared in order to compare the revenues and expenditures in the first 6 months of the current year with both the budget and the first 6 months of the prior year. Overall, general fund revenues are on track at 51% of budget. This is approximately $2 million more than the prior year. Just to talk about a couple of the key revenues, property tax is up 35% or approximately $1 million compared to the prior year. And part of this is because we received the redistribution of the redevelopment tax increment funds earlier this year than we did last year. So last year it was reflected in the third quarter report. Departmental revenues, we're seeing some significant increases in building and planning, and this is due to an increase in development-related activity. And these are hard to predict, as I said in the staff report, so we'll continue to monitor this, and we may come forward if there's a material increase and ask for an adjustment in the third quarter. One area that, just another area that I want to watch is that business tax revenues are up approximately $97,000. However, if you look at the budget, we have 3.2 budgeted in 14-15. We had 2.3 budgeted last year. We were at 97% in the prior year, and now we're at 74%. So this is a 23% drop. Our business taxes are received majority up front. We have the airport tax that's also included in that. So I will continue to monitor this and see, do some research and see if maybe we over budgeted or if we're anticipating something coming in that I'm not aware of. General fund expenditures, overall, we're doing very well. We're at 49% of budget, right where you want to be. So it is $951,000 more than last year, but that was reflected in the budget. On to the enterprise and internal service funds. The water fund revenues are down approximately $300,000, and this in large part can be contributed to water consumption due to the ongoing drought. The wastewater fund revenues at mid-year were approximately $7.1 million compared to $6.7 million in the prior year, and this is due to 6 months of rate increases from the approved 5-year rate adjustment schedule. Cable television, actual revenues are lower by $48,000. However, the budget did reflect this. We did decrease the budget in the prior year, or in this year, and revenues are still outpacing expenditures, so it seems to be at least self-sufficient. Self-insurance fund, this fund is over the 50% mark at 65%. However, the expenditure totals are $206,000 less than the prior year, and this is due to a significant decrease in claims. Various budget adjustments have been approved by the council since the budget adoption in June, and I have them listed here. In September, a new agreement with the San Bruno Park School District, which required the city to pay additional facility use fees and the school district to reimburse the city of maintenance of school fields. On October 14th, the acceptance of the Office of Traffic Safety Grant, and on October 28th, 2014, the purchase of the 324 Florida Avenue property. As part of the mid-year process, the budget is reviewed to determine if any adjustments should be included in this report, and we do have some. We're asking for an additional increase in revenue of $75,000 and an increase in expenditures in the $50,000 in the recreation department, and this is due to the addition of the first and second grades at Portola and John Muir elementary schools and the city's after-school adventure programs. In the library, we're asking for an increase of $12,000 in appropriation, and this is due to the Peninsula Library System's increased costs for both shared and bandwidth costs. In the parks maintenance, staff is proposing an appropriation of $45,000 to address open space areas to mitigate ongoing fire hazards. This appropriation was previously included in the CIP budget, but we believe that it's more accurate to reflect it in the city's operating budget. In the city manager's office, we're asking for an increase to fund ongoing and future economic development with an increase of $125,000, and this is from the RDA boomerang funds that the city will receive in 14-15 and was originally budgeted in 13-14 and inadvertently not carried over for reappropriation in the 14-15 budget. In the facilities fund, we are asking for an increase of $20,347 to repair the city hall generator. Overall, the net increase to the general fund would be, in appropriations, would be $157,000, and then the facility funds would be $20,347. And with that, that completes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for our finance director?
Through the chair,
Michael?
I did have a few questions on some of the changes that are being proposed. First, regarding the library, shared and bandwidth costs. What does that mean?
So we normally pay the shared costs, I believe, is, and I may need our community services director to explain it a little bit better, but the the shared cost, I believe, is all the libraries pay a certain portion to the Peninsula Library Services. The bandwidth costs I'm not as familiar with.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. As you know, through the Peninsula Library System, there's a wide array of services that we benefit from that are actually delivered by them. And they've incurred additional cost associated with our internet-based public use computer system. And so those are expenses that they host the servers, they troubleshoot all the issues that exist, and they provide the hardware. So the cost associated with that actually increased for the fiscal 14-15 budget, but I didn't become aware of it. We didn't become aware of it until after we had actually put together the proposed budget for the council's consideration.
So it's not bandwidth per se, excuse me, that we're talking about the actual library website and the public access computers in the library?
It's actually the bandwidth expenses and service related to the catalog that they host and the public use computers that are available in the library for people to use. Those are actually hosted by the Peninsula Library System through a shared server. I'm a little bit out of my technical depth, but a shared server that they host and manage, and the backbone that they support.
Okay. I'm not sure that makes sense to me, but okay. Thank you for trying to explain that. Maybe I can dig in a little deeper later. Regarding parks and maintenance, there's not a lot of detail around here. There's a comment in here that the list of areas requiring annual attention continues to grow. So does that mean that the number of areas that we service is increasing, or just that the areas that we've always serviced now require more attention?
I think this is really a reference, and I'll ask the Community Services Director to actually stand by in case. This is an item, as the Finance Director indicated, that has in recent years, unfortunately, it's bounced around a little bit between the operating budget and the capital budget, and was not included in the capital budget and is also not included in the operating budget this year. I think the increase refers to the fact that the amount that has been budgeted in the recent couple of previous years is $30,000. And so the $45,000 represents a modest, I would say, increase in the amount of territory that would be attended to in the normal annual program to abate fire hazards and, in particular, tree hazards. This is an issue that really does require additional attention. Estimates of the annual need that the fire department and the Parks Division have identified run to $100,000 annually plus. So there's both a resource, financial resource, as well as a human resource or capacity to perform the work effort that really is otherwise indicated. So the fact that it appears tonight and that the increase is represented as a talking point really relates to the comparison to the $30,000 that has recently historically been budgeted.
Okay. It sounds to me like it's a bit of a Band-Aid fix then. It's a bigger problem. I don't think we're really, from what we're seeing here, we don't really see what the areas are that we're talking about. We can't really understand if you're addressing all of the areas that we're aware of. We don't have an opportunity to look at those areas and understand what the real impact is. I know that there was some funding that was discussed to address tree issues in the Glenview area that's being
Correct.
funded separately.
Correct.
So without understanding sort of comprehensively what we're addressing with this money, and I know it's not a lot of money, but it does seem like something that does deserve probably more attention and maybe a little bit more analysis than what we're seeing here
Yeah, I
before
think
we
that
commit to it.
staff agrees with you about that, and we would certainly be prepared to provide that to you at least as soon as the upcoming budget deliberations for fiscal year 15-16, which are coming up later this spring. But it's a topic that warrants, I would say, more attention, as you indicate, than it has historically received. In terms of the material that's presented to you tonight is sort of deliberately abbreviated because this is a topic that has shown in our one place or another in our budget historically, and we are simply continuing a comparable level of effort. But it is a topic that we would certainly welcome the opportunity to dive into a little bit more detail with the City Council and give you a more comprehensive and realistic picture of what it might take to address the many areas of open space, forested area in our community.
Okay. And I also had a question about the funds that are being allocated for the transit corridor plan, because again, I got the impression here that we're talking about a lot of little programs, but there's no real sort of real plan. I mean, what are we trying to accomplish within the next year, within the next 5 years, within the next 10 years? And I mean, some of the things that are mentioned, facade improvement, for example, could be a very short-term, very successful short-term program. But if within 3 years we're talking about replacing a bunch of buildings and maybe replacing the facades is not a good idea. So again, this is something where rather than just say, okay, we're going to do some things and then kind of go forward with it and throw a little bit of money at it, I'd like to see more of a well-developed plan that kind of helps me feel good about spending $100,000 this year and knowing that that's going to give us some incremental benefit in the coming years. So again, I kind of understand where that's going, and I know it was previously allocated, but I think I would feel a lot more comfortable about approving the money if I understood the vision, the short-term and the long-term vision a little bit better.
Yeah, let me give you a preliminary response, because again, I agree that this is a topic that staff is working on having achieved the first step in implementation of our transit corridor plan with the successful ballot measure on the November ballot related to development standards. We are actively and busily in the process of developing a proposed work program to support a more comprehensive implementation of the transit corridor plan and the vision for the downtown. This essentially carry-forward amount is actually intended as a fairly preliminary level of activity associated with, frankly, some of the work that's already been performed associated with economic analysis relative to the development standards that were part of the city's, not the campaign, but the city's work effort associated with the change in the development standards that has recently been accomplished. I recently became aware that this funding source had not been carried forward, and so this is the reason that this is being brought forward to you tonight.
Okay. All right.
If I can chime in on this also.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before it does. And I got charged up when I saw future economic development, and even six figures is odd. And then seeing a list of items under it, I figured, well, that's just an allowance. It's not really going to take care of all those programs.
Right.
But I think we all know what staff is doing as far as, zoning ordinance changes and, a whole slew of things.
Right.
But I don't want the victory of Measure N to go too far into 2015 without letting the greater public know what our plan is. And maybe, yes, we do need to discuss it more, but I get questions now, so what is going to happen about the transit corridors plan. Do developers know, the opportunities here, and how do we do that? And maybe that's not staff's, responsibility. Maybe that's something that we need to spend money on to, really promote this community. So that's my 2 cents on that.
So it's both staff responsibility and it's the subject of a more focused and expansive work effort. I can assure you that that is something that is daily in process and, so therefore not necessarily terribly expensive, but it is something that we're actively working on. As you mentioned, the zoning ordinance changes and a variety of other relatively behind-the-scenes type of work efforts, in addition to regular communication with the development community. We have people all the time who are interested in kicking tires about a particular location or a particular type of use, and this is the primary topic of our interest, is to make sure that they know about the opportunities that the Transit Corridor Plan and its implementation present. What should follow as part of our work program is a more comprehensive actual marketing program.
Anyone else? Anything else, Michael?
No, not for now. Thank you.
Rico?
Just on those, the fire mitigation, I know that is something that I had asked about as far as, 30,000 doesn't go very far when I've gone to a person on Rolling Wood and gone through their backyard because they had a concern, or up in the Buckeye area. So needless to say, I've asked in the past that we maybe kind of assess, and how is that assessed, and how often is that assessed? Granted, we're not going to have probably enough money to go to where it needs to go, but I would like to have also an understanding for me sitting on the council when I'm asked, how is this developed, how is it analyzed, how often is it? As far as the funding for future economic development, I know that was budgeted but not spent, therefore being asked to be carried over as other items have been and are in the budget. So do we have a timeline of that? And I'd like to see some type of measurable items and how are we going to measure their success and what is our strategy going forward. So I'd like to see that come forward too with those type of costs and expenditures.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Asking for a action on this, adopt a resolution, and we'd like to introduce that resolution.
Through the chair, before
Michael.
before we introduce it, I just want to make a comment. I know I had a lot of detailed questions on this, and I apologize to staff for not submitting any questions in advance. I try to get those done, but didn't have a whole lot of time to go through this weekend, so I do apologize for that. But I just want to say, I do appreciate the effort that did go into this report, but I think without additional details, I can't support it, and so I just wanted to say that up front, that I really think we need to put a lot more detail into this before I'd be comfortable with approving the additional funds. So thank you for
Any other comments or action by the council?
Through the chair, I'd like to introduce the resolution.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell. Aye. Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
No.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10B, adopt a resolution supporting Marymount Subdivision resident petition to transfer territory from the South San Francisco Unified School District to the San Bruno Park School District and the San Mateo High School Unified District.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This item is kind of an interesting one in that it comes forward at a point in time where an unusual situation has existed for a very, very long time, relatively unimpactful until fairly recently. And that is, this item is to support a petition by the residents, initiated by residents of the Marymount subdivision, which, as I think you know, was developed in the beginning in about 2006 through about 2008 by Summerhill Homes off of Evergreen Drive on the site of San Bruno Park School District's former Carl Sandburg School. This location is within the Rollingwood area and at the far northern border of our community, adjacent to the city of South San Francisco. I mentioned that this item results from a petition initiated by, or an initiative of residents of this Marymount subdivision. I would note at the outset here that the city has not received a request from those residents or from anybody other than itself to take this action, but staff concurs with a request that we received from the the subcommittee that represents us in collaboration with the school district, council members Medina and Salazar, who work together with a subcommittee of the school board to address various issues of our collaboration and coordination within the community. Just very briefly on a historical explanation of what this situation is that in 1961, San Bruno Park School District developed the Carl Sandburg School on the 10-acre site in the location that I've just described. As you know, in 2005, the school district surplused and sold that site to Summerhill Homes with the stated intent by Summerhill Homes to develop a residential subdivision. They did so, and those homes were, those 70 homes that were developed by Summerhill were sold to new residents of San Bruno who have, since they moved in, enthusiastically embraced the opportunity to be a part of the San Bruno community. This is a very active and very collaborative, obviously, community, and one that relishes the opportunity to be part of the San Bruno community in all ways. Unfortunately for them, they were surprised to discover in approximately 2009 by an astute resident looking at their tax bill that there was an allocation on their tax bill for property taxes being paid to the South San Francisco Unified School District. Upon questioning that revelation, the residents learned that, in fact, that piece of property, that 10-acre site, is actually within the jurisdictional boundaries of that school district and not those school districts serving the city of San Bruno. And as you know, there are two school districts that otherwise serve the residents of San Bruno. Those are the San Bruno Elementary School District, San Bruno Park School District that serves K through 8 students, and the San Mateo Union High School District that serves high school age students. Upon making that discovery and the subsequent inquiries that the residents made to try and understand the situation, as I indicated, it was discovered that the property in which they live is actually part of the South San Francisco Unified School District. And over the course of that discussion, they were directed that their home area of attendance would be in South San Francisco. And if residents of the Marymount subdivision wanted to have their students attend schools in San Bruno, or frankly anywhere else other than South San Francisco, those families would need to complete the interdistrict transfer permit process and receive approval every year by both the San Bruno School District as well as the South San Francisco School District, which creates a level of complexity and burden for those families that some have frankly chosen just not to bother with. As I indicated, let me give you just a little bit more historical background. In investigating the situation, what the residents discovered was that although the school had been built and operated by the San Bruno Park School District beginning in 1961 through the time that that school closed in 1978, for the majority of that period of time, that property actually was physically located in the unincorporated San Mateo County territory. In 1977, that property was annexed to the city of San Bruno. Unfortunately, annexation, and apparently during the time of this property being in the unincorporated San Mateo County, it was assigned to the South San Francisco Unified School District. Unfortunately, at the time of the annexation of the property to the city of San Bruno, an annexation to the jurisdictional boundaries of the San Bruno school districts did not occur. So the property remained in the South San Francisco Unified School District territory, where that issue did not attract any attention or create any issues or any concern during the entire period of time that it was a school site. It didn't, there was no taxes were collected or exchanged, and until the property was developed for residential use, the situation simply existed, and as I indicated, did not create any attention or issue. It was, however, at the time that the residents discovered this anomaly and began to question it, that there ensued a situation where the districts, South San Francisco and San Bruno districts, could not reach an agreement about tax sharing that would have allowed students to regularly attend San Bruno schools. So the residents initiated a petition to the San Mateo County Office of School Organization, I think it's called, through the County Office of Education. That petition was heard by that office, and it was approved. The approval decision was subsequently appealed by the South San Francisco Unified School District and is now pending a decision and action by the State Board of Education. That action or that hearing will occur at the upcoming State Board meeting on March 11th and 12th in Sacramento. And it's my understanding that residents from the Marymount subdivision, who've now been on this since approximately 2012, will be in attendance and will be representing their case and their interest, which frankly is really a pretty simple one. And the two things that really stood out for me were, number one, being able to really fully engage as residents of San Bruno, having the opportunity not just to enjoy community activities, parks and recreation programs and the like, but to have their students be able to attend school with their friends and neighbors in the San Bruno community, and to actually be able to, for those families, to be able to engage like others in San Bruno within the school community, which, as we know, is a vibrant and active social network, as well as many others in our community. A second issue that stood out in my review of this issue and in learning a little bit about this anomalous situation was that situation that you may recall from the time that the Marymount subdivision was developed, and that was that as part of that development, there was a specific decision, as it turns out, by the city of South San Francisco to physically block the opportunity for roadway connection between Evergreen, or the Marymount subdivision, and into South San Francisco. So there's a road, my recollection is anyway, that there's a road that is essentially physically blocked. So it's not convenient for residents of the Marymount subdivision physically to get to school in South San Francisco. That's a long ways around in another direction. And I think that the residents are correct in some of the materials that I read, that situation appears to indicate what I think is true, that nobody really knew. Nobody really was paying any attention. As I mentioned, it didn't create any issues until residents moved into the subdivision. But nobody really knew that this property was not already incorporated into the boundaries of the San Bruno school districts. In fact, the residents were informed, and all of the documentation that they have been able to amass in this extensive effort that they've undertaken indicates that everybody thought that the property was served by San Bruno schools. And so the residents bought their properties and, as I said, happily engaged in San Bruno with that understanding and that expectation. So the item that's before you tonight, again, is the initiative of your City Council subcommittee to to just adopt a resolution of support that would bolster, hopefully, the residents' initiative upcoming before the State Board of Education to correct a situation that's existed for a very long time that has, as I said, gone undetected, and which would be of their interest and their initiative to fully engage and become members of the San Bruno community in all ways that other residents are. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. Any questions? Ken?
I'm not laughing at the report or anything, but you did say something that just sort of, when you said that it seems like a simple thing to change, and we've been here a long time on this council, and I distinctly remember the fight for Portola, the Portola Highlands annexation, and how many years that took, and how it simply was a district not wanting to give up the revenue of those students. And when you sit and I just shake my head when it says it's up to the state, but there's going to undoubtedly South San Francisco is going to fight for those students because it's revenue. And I am just appalled that and I heard about this a couple of years ago. I was attending a San Bruno Park School District meeting, and a resident got up and made, stated the issue. And I just couldn't believe it, that after all this time that the San Bruno Park School District had fought for an annexation for Portola School, that we would go through this with, just seems like taking it for granted. And I see in the resolution that whereas residents have been repeatedly, consistently advised and relied upon information, and I don't blame our city. I mean, I actually blame the school district for not, assuring that when they sold the property. I can't believe it. And I remember reviewing that project, and South San Francisco was adamant. They did not want the traffic of that development to encumber their city. And so that was a big give to them. And I mean, at the very least, we should do this. And because these residents had every intention, understanding of coming to San Bruno schools, and they're being denied that.
If I might, I just address the revenue issue very briefly, and I will acknowledge at the front here that I don't know a lot about the details of the financial implications, but I think there's two interesting points about this. First of all, the South San Francisco Unified District, I believe, is a basic aid district, so they are reliant on property tax. That's what basic aid means. They don't get ADA monies or average daily attendance monies. They support themselves based on property tax. San Bruno Park School District has gone in and out of basic aid, depending on the property tax level based on formulas that the state uses to determine. So tax revenue is an issue for the South San Francisco District. I think that's understandable. The second observation, though, that I would make is that there was no tax revenue, none at all, paid by the San Bruno Park School District under their ownership of the property for those many decades. And so it's only recently, and only with the development of the Marymount subdivision, that opportunity has existed. So it's, it's not a situation where, at least to my understanding, that district would have had a historical reliance on property taxes that are now going to, after a very long time, go away. It's a matter of money that they didn't have and now have had for a short period of time would no longer be available. And there are legitimate financial issues, I believe, that have been mounted by the district in their appeal of the county board's decision. So I would expect those to be discussed at the state level when this comes up to them.
If I could, I mean, we're doing a resolution. Is there, and I realize that they haven't come forward to ask for city's help, but the city helped a lot with the, Portola annexation when it got close. And I just think that, maybe we should outreach to see what more we can do to help the cause and, convince the state.
I'd be happy to do that if that's the council's interest.
Rico?
Through the chair. This is something that it was enlightening. I became aware of when I went up and had National Night Out. Just stopped by because the neighborhood was having a National Night Out. They had a Grundy Park, and so I went up there after. And lo and behold, I came up and was very much welcomed, and I appreciated and met Virginia. Virginia, who's the head petitioner, who has worked diligently up there to have all of this. A parent, a resident, in her spare time, having this done and going through all this process. Should have been taken care of last year, but it was delayed by the state, and so here it comes. So I spoke to Virginia today. We were talking about this, and she had an obligation, so she couldn't be here. But obviously, we don't have control over what the state does. To me, it's very straightforward. I know you made mention to have them feel to become part of San Bruno. I think they've always been San Bruno. They are San Bruno. They're a part of our community. Always has been. When I've been on city staff and Parks and Rec, that's where we practice when the school was closed for Pony. That's where the kids went to school, and those are programs that we participated in as a community and as a city. So it was silly to me to hear what they have to go through to enroll their kids in actually San Bruno schools, which, again, as the city manager said, I always found it ironic because I told them the city of South City put up a gate and didn't want you driving through their streets. There is only one way in and one way out, and that's through the city of San Bruno, and that is their home. So I don't know if any of my other colleagues have it, but I would like to introduce the resolution of supporting our community for their endeavor in March.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10C, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an energy services agreement with Tanco Lighting, Inc. for LED streetlight conversion services in the amount of $993,664 and appropriating $942,790 from the Capital Fund Reserve to cover the agreement cost and a $99,366 contingency amount.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. We have come before you in the past with an update on replacing our existing streetlight fixtures. As you know, we have approximately 2,100 streetlights throughout the city. 95% of them are the Cobra head, as you see in the majority of the streets in the area. about 5% of them are ornamental, which you see basically in downtown and some in the Bay Hill area. We've been having three main intentions of looking at replacement fixtures. One was we wanted to get better illumination. We want to get away from this orange glow, have better visibility, better to recognize people, cars, facial features. We wanted to get better electricity usage out of this, lower our electric bill substantially if possible. And we wanted to have better reliability and less failure of these fixtures. So what we did was we looked at the LED technology over a long period of time, and we watched it get better and better, more manufacturers coming into this type of business, creating fixtures that would apply to the streetlights. We contacted many other cities throughout the Bay Area and throughout California, and we tried to learn from their experiences and from their mistakes. We looked at the rebates available that would reduce down the cost for us. We looked at financing options as where do we actually get the funds to start the project, pay back through the savings. And we also looked at certain part of our system, which is regulated output or the series fixtures. There are approximately 350 out of the 2,100 that are on those series circuits, and we wanted to see what we can do with those. So over this period of time, the technology has improved tremendously. The prices have come down tremendously, but also the rebates have come down. Not to zero, but have come down quite a bit since we were looking at it in the first place. So we, at this point in time, based on all the experiences of other cities, based on the information we got from all the different manufacturers and contractors, the prices have come down to a point that we want to make a recommendation to you with a system that would work for our city. This will save electricity in the magnitude of approximately $100,000 a year. It has much better reliability. Instead of 3 to 5 years, we will have 10 to 20 years of life out of these fixtures. The visibility is vastly different and better. We coordinated with our police department, make sure that this is the type of light that would actually reduce our crime. It has reduced crime in other cities. And we also coordinated with our finance department as to how we're actually going to finance this and be able to pay back less than 10 years, hopefully 9 years, 8 perhaps, or even 7, depending on how the maintenance savings is going to come into effect. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to William Lee, our management analyst, to give you the details of our current recommendation.
Thank you, Ray. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. The streetlight replacement project is included in the adopted 14-19 CIP budget with the 3 main project goals that Mr. Razavi just mentioned, which are illumination and safety, reliability, and energy savings. The current lights that the city utilizes are high-pressure sodium and metal halide lights, and these lights are outdated and do not meet any of the 3 goals. As you can see from this chart, LED lights surpass high-pressure sodium and metal halide in all categories. The LEDs can reach a higher temperature, and this is achieved with a lower power usage compared to the high-pressure sodiums by about 60 to 70%. The high-pressure sodium lights use a lot of power but cannot reach a high temperature, which is why these lights emit that orange glow that we're used to. The wider lights from the LEDs can create a brighter, more accurate environment at night that more closely resembles daylight. The next couple of slides has some examples of lights that we've put up in the city. This slide is an example of a high-pressure sodium versus LED light, and this is near the Public Services Corporation yard on Huntington Avenue. So it's pretty clear even without before and after labels that which one is the before and which one will be the after. The high-pressure sodium light on the left has poor illumination and many dark spots, making pedestrians and cyclists difficult to see at night until they're up close. The LED light on the right side illuminates the whole road and will enable a clearer field of vision. And this slide just illustrates what the two fixtures look like. So on the left is the current high-pressure sodium lamp, and on the right is an LED fixture. So you notice this is on the same zoom, so the LED fixture is a lot smaller than the high-pressure sodium. This is an example of an ornamental post-op, a metal halide on the left and LED retrofit on the right. While the illumination difference is less noticeable here, the metal halide light on the left needs a far greater amount of power than the LED, so the energy savings will still be substantial. And here is a picture of the two fixtures, so you might notice that the outer shell will be the same. We are recommending a retrofit fixture, so only the fixture on the inside will be changed if approved. Back in April 2014, staff presented a project implementation plan to the council for converting the streetlights, beginning with a demonstration project, followed by a request for proposals. The plan was also presented to the Surface Infrastructure Committee in July 2014. The demonstration project focused on different LEDs at different temperature intensities, and it ran from early July to the end of August 2014. As you can see from the map, fixtures were installed on all types of roads within the city, and it included residential, minor and major arterial roads, and downtown. Residents were encouraged to submit feedback, and based on the feedback received, a majority preferred the lower temperature LED that produced a white light, opposed to the higher temperature one that produced the more bluish light. The most common concern from the feedback received was residents concerned with light glaring or bleeding into their homes at night. So during the installation process, if approved, these potential issues can be mitigated by adjusting the LED fixtures to a degree, but if further action needs to be taken, shields can also be installed on these fixtures to prevent the bleeding going to the homes. So staff released an RFP in September, and based on the proposals received, selected Tanko Lighting Incorporated as the most qualified vendor for this project. This project would have two stages. The first stage will include the vendor performing a comprehensive audit of the city's streetlights and poles. From this audit, it's estimated that about 30 poles will need to be replaced when the audit is completed. The audit will also include an update of the city streetlight inventory, as the current inventory that the city utilizes is based off of the utility bills. It will also include populating the lights into our GIS system to improve our overall infrastructure mapping. After the audit is completed, a plan will be developed to replace approximately 2,100 streetlights, with the majority, about 2,000, being the Cobra head fixtures, and the rest, about 100, being the decorative post stops on San Mateo Avenue and Bay Hill Drive. The plan will most likely involve converting the fixtures in sections, section by section, across the city, but that will be finalized when the audit is completed. Based on the demonstration project feedback, discussions with other cities, Tanko Lighting, and field testing, staff is recommending Leotech fixtures for the Cobra heads and Sensity retrofit fixtures for the post stops. And the city has brought the fixtures tonight should the council or anyone from the public wishes to view them. Stage 2 of the project will be for the regulated output or the RO circuits. The map below shows the locations of the RO circuits across the city. The RO circuits are on a series, which means it's a string of lights that shares the same power source, so it's similar to a string of holiday lights. It might be hard to see on the map, but the Crestmore area RO lights are highlighted in red. This is because those RO lights in that area would be replaced through the Crestmore reconstruction project and not through this replacement project. The diagram on the left side shows the current RO setup. So it's typically a string of 10 or more lights with one power source that's buried in the ground. So in order for in order to deliver enough power to all the lights within the series, the power source needs to deliver enough power to each light, which means that each lamp in the series carries a high voltage. So currently, if the bulb goes out in the series, the entire series must be shut off in order to deal with the high voltage. As Mr. Rizalvi mentioned earlier, the cost of LED fixtures has decreased to the point where the city can address some of the maintenance issues with the RO lights with a temporary solution, which is to install transformers on each RO circuit light to eliminate that high voltage. So the animation should pop up here. So once the transformers are installed, if a light fails, the bulb can be replaced like any other street light bulb because there would be a safe voltage in the actual bulb. The transformers would save a substantial amount of maintenance time through historical maintenance records that we keep. We estimate that about 80% of all malfunctions with the RO circuits are due to the lamp itself. So this would save a substantial amount of maintenance time. The cost to install these transformers is approximately $213,000. However, if the circuit power or the lines underground go out, the entire series will still shut off until the problem area can be identified and repaired. That is why the staff still recommends that the RO circuits be replaced in the future when adequate funding sources can be identified. The current total project cost estimate for replacing the entire RO series in the city is approximately $2 to $3 million. This slide shows a breakdown of the proposed project cost. It includes the conversion of the lights for the Cobra heads and the post ops, also the installation of the transformers, and it also includes the estimated replacement of the 30 street poles. It also includes a 10% contingency and about $34,000 for staff time. PG&E rebates are expected to be around $92,000, and also in the current CIP, there's already a $91,700 gas tax appropriation, so those two items are deducted. So the total appropriation request that the city is presenting tonight is $942,790. And after analyzing funding options and coordinating with the finance department, staff recommends that the funds be borrowed from the Capital Reserve Fund. So staff explored a variety of financing options, including a Department of Energy CEC loan with a 1% interest rate. However, this funding source is currently not available and not expected to be replenished for another 12 to 24 months, and there's currently a long waiting list of applicants for the future funding. Borrowing from the capital reserves will result in the lowest project cost due to the absence of interest payments, and currently there's about $6.5 million in the capital reserve fund. Payback of the project cost will be through the energy savings that can be achieved through the conversion. Since PG&E rates are fixed and based on wattage, the energy savings will be seen immediately after conversion, and is estimated to be about $100,000 a year. And as Mr. Rizalvi mentioned earlier, a full payback of the project cost is expected within 9 years. It's important to note that that payback calculation does not include future maintenance savings, and if those calculations were to be included, the project could be paid back within 7 to 8 years. There are alternative funding options available, including private financing, which is available immediately. The downside is the interest rates for those are around 3 to 4%. Here we have estimated project timelines. With council approval tonight, the comprehensive audit would take place in April to May, and with the followed by the Cobra head, post-op, and transformer installations expected from June to October. And again, we recommend replacing the RO series at a later date to be determined once funding sources can be identified. So that concludes my presentation, and I'd like to mention that tonight we also have Jason Tanko from Tanko Lighting here, should the council have any technical questions. Thank you for your attention, and at this time, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff at this time? Ken?
Through the chair. You mentioned the series, the RO fixtures as temporary, and then to be determined when to spend when we have a $2 to $3 million funding source. What if we don't? And what is temporary? And tell me about assuring us that the Crestmore neighborhood is safe to have ongoing lighting even with these new transformers.
The Crestmore neighborhood actually will not have transformers. They will be replacing as part of the construction project.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
yes. But the rest of the city, which would be approximately 300, a little over 300 lights, those would be on 7 circuits, and those circuits will have problems in the future. However, with the transformers would take care of approximately 80% of our maintenance follow-up on those circuits. In other words, the transformers would make the street light separate from the circuit itself. So the street light, all the wiring in the street lights would be normal, just like any other street light. You can change the fixture, you can put the LED fixture on it. There will be no problem with the lights popping because of the high voltage or any kind of fluctuation in the voltage. What will remain is from the street light down into the conduits, into the ground where the line runs. So that area would have problems in the future until we do a replacement project, once the financing is.
I'm aware of the problems that we have in the same type of connections on El Camino Real. Mm-hmm. So what is historically, what are the problems that we have, the 20% of problems that we have in those neighborhoods with these series connections?
Normally the lines, some of these lines, they're very poor condition, and they get cut. Somehow they just get disconnected, they might get hit with a shovel, they might get hit through the construction, or they may just develop a problem, inherent problem in the line itself. So until we actually take these lines and put a new conduit in and put a brand new wire through them, they're going to have these problems. And the issue is, these are 7 different locations throughout the city, and in each location you actually have to cut the street and put the line in or bury it behind the sidewalk. So we have to make sure that the conduits and the lines are done according
So either through age or through construction.
Correct.
That's what happens. Okay.
It could be just planting a tree.
Yeah.
That it would, affect the line. You dig down and the line gets affected.
If I could just interrupt for just a second, there's no change really except for the limited improvement
No, I
that the
understand that,
transformers would
yeah.
provide. So it would be status quo.
My other question is, I realize we're going to have all these cost savings and payback through cost savings, do we have a payback? The staff has finance, do we have a payback plan? I mean, would it be unreasonable to just say, let's put $100,000 every year back into the reserve? I mean, we know through previous, communities and everything, that we're going to have significant savings. And yes, you have the disclaimer that, could be some maintenance here or there, whatever. Why not just put it in the resolution that we're going to pay back $100,000 every year?
The payback, Councilmember Ibarra, is actually going to go up as we're based on the LS2 rate, as it's called by PG&E, and it's a fixed rate per streetlights. And our basic streetlights, for example, we pay between $5 to $6 per month per streetlight. That's going to drop down to about $2 to $3.
No, I'm
right.
fully,
Yes.
and that's great. That's great. But that just means that you don't write a bigger check. Mm-hmm. So let's write the big check, but just put the savings back into the reserve. That's not your issue, but
Yeah. I think that's totally doable.
Yeah, I do like that. Yeah, that is our goal. At year end, when we are closing the books, to actually move that money into the capital reserve first. Because it is a fixed rate, so we do know. I mean, just to give you an idea, per month, we're currently paying $14,500. It'll go down to $5,400 a month. Annually, it's $1,740 or $174,000. It'll go down to $65,000. So that's a savings of $109,000 the first year, and we anticipate that will increase. So, and then that's not including the maintenance costs. So we'll monitor it, and finance will move that at year end. So if you want to put it in the resolution, that's fine, but we plan on doing it anyway because I want that money back.
Okay. Anyone else? Michael?
Through the chair, just to follow up on that question. So currently, do we increase, because I don't recall seeing this when we do the budget, and is there an annual increase that we allocate for the increase in electrical cost for that? Has that been a line item that traditionally goes up every year?
Each year, the departments are charged with estimating utility costs, electrical costs for all city facilities, including the streetlights, and those are estimated based on rate information and the utilization and historical expenditure information. So I can't say that they have always gone up, but they are analyzed every year and adjusted accordingly.
Okay, so that number should be going up. And then
Correct.
there's an additional cost savings from maintenance that we won't be doing on the older type things, so that number would make it even bigger, and I'm assuming that would also go toward the payback to accelerate our time frame.
You're correct, Councilmember Salazar. We're going to monitor the maintenance. These lights will have 10-year warranty on the parts. Not on the labor. The labor would be 1 year through Tanco, but 10 years through the parts. So we expect to save quite a bit from not having to replace these lights, which usually currently last between 3 to 5 years. So with them lasting over 10 years, we should expect to see savings, and we will monitor that, and we could bring it back to you and report on it.
Hey, what sort of contract do we have right now? I know we outsource the replacement of the lights.
We have a contract with Flower Electric, and once we encounter problems, they will go in and find out what the problem is, and we have certain number of lights in stock that we bring in and replace and try to fix the old ones as it's taken down.
So we'll continue to
We will continue to have
service through them?
Correct.
Okay.
Continue
And
to have service.
there's no, it's on a per,
It's hourly, correct.
it's hourly, so there's no prepayment or some expectation of a base cost? Okay,
No.
thank you.
Anyone else? Action by the council?
Through the chair, if I may, I can't believe it's been probably 4 terms I've been campaigning for better streetlights. I think it's great. I live a block away from Millbrae, and they have the LEDs for about a year now. So I'd love.
Actually, these are better than the ones in Millbrae.
Well, then let's approve this resolution. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10D, receive a report and provide direction regarding a resolution repealing Resolution 1986-64 and an ordinance amending Chapter 8.24.200, implementing a modified policy for inspection, maintenance, and replacement of private sewer laterals.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. We're here tonight to address the issue of maintenance responsibility for private sewer laterals by looking at 2 things. First of all, by reviewing an existing resolution, and then also by reviewing the city's current ordinance. As you know, the municipal code already establishes that private sewer laterals are owned by the private property owners. But in 1976, the city adopted a resolution that's included in your packet to provide some maintenance based on the existence of a conforming cleanout. And that maintenance was limited to rotting, and beyond that, the owner was responsible to repair or replace their own lateral. So in other words, the city would show up, would rod the lateral, but then if there was a problem, the property owner would have to replace or repair it themselves. 10 years later, the city adopted a resolution in 1986, that's also attached to your packet, which expanded the scope of city services for private laterals with approved cleanouts. So if somebody installed an approved cleanout, the city wouldn't just rod the sewer lateral if there was a problem, but they would either repair or replace it if necessary. And then under that program, the property owners were charged 60 cents per month. That program and that charge was in place for over 28 years. But since that time, the costs of the program have far outstripped the amounts collected, as indicated in the staff report. And just for comparison, the amounts that have been spent since 2009, just in the last 5 or 6 years, have actually exceeded, or close to exceeded, the total amount collected over the entire 28 years. And then going forward, the amounts that the city plans to spend are going to be over about $1.1 million per year going forward. Not only that, but as the staff report indicates, that amount is likely to increase over time, and there are a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is that we expect that more property owners will install cleanouts after implementation of the lateral inspection program that the City Council approved last year. That goes into effect in May. And when property owners are required to repair or replace their private laterals after they or before they sell their property, we anticipate, in anticipation of that, the property owners are going to install a clean out for a couple of $100s and then make the city repair or replace their lateral. So we think those costs are going to go up. The second reason why the costs are likely to increase is because once that happens, the city will actually have more private laterals to maintain going forward. So even though those will be new private laterals that the city will have installed at its expense, the city is then on top of that going to be required to maintain, inspect those and replace them essentially in perpetuity. So the conclusion in the staff report is essentially that the program adopted in 1986, while good at the time, charges about 11,000 residents an insufficient amount for a service that only a relatively few people will use. But unfortunately, those individuals, by taking advantage of that service, will impose an unsustainable burden on the system. So the City Council has discussed this difficult issue at 4 public meetings starting in June of last year. And if the city does decide to return some of the responsibility of maintenance and repair to the property owners, as other cities have done, you'll need to consider taking 2 actions. And both of those actions are presented for you tonight in the forum of discussion and direction. The first action would be to repeal the 1986 resolution. And then the second action would be to amend your existing ordinance to make the policy clear. Now, your existing ordinance already says private property owners own the laterals, but it would be amended to say, and they're responsible for repairing or replacing them. The amended ordinance, as you see in your packet, would also specify the services that the staff will provide. So if there's a call, the staff will go out, they'll inspect the lateral if that's possible, they'll try to clear the blockage as well as much as possible, and then refer back to the property owner to do a repair or replacement if that's necessary. In the course of those 4 meetings, the City Council recognized that it might be a burden on some property owners who might know they have failing private laterals, who were anticipating that they might take advantage of the city's program, as others have over 28 years. So the City Council directed staff to research the availability of a private warranty program. So it turns out that for about $9 a month, property owners can have the peace of mind that if their lateral fails, they are covered, actually both for the upper and the lower lateral, up to $8,000. So that's actually better than what the city does. What the city would do, even under the current policy, is just repair, replace the lower lateral. So the warranty coverage covers both pieces of that lateral. If the City Council does direct staff to proceed with the actions that are provided in your staff report, then an upcoming meeting will bring back the resolution to repeal Resolution 1986, and also an ordinance amendment as reflected in the staff packet, or as you may decide to modify. that concludes my staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mark or staff at this time? Anyone? Mr. Peterson?
Thank you. Perry Peterson. The staff recommendation has many mistakes in it, and it should be revised before any action. The action should be to keep the present lower lateral program. It's difficult for me to bring you such challenging news. I know you don't expect that someone believes that the staff report is simply wrong on the facts, but in this case it is, multiple times. So I challenge you to review the current staff report and keep the current sewer repair program in place until the true detailed facts are known. For example, I learned just this week that the city has misreported the sewer lateral spills since 2009, thus making the Baykeepers agreement and fines happen. The staff report this week, staff report, not the last one you saw, claims it knew this, but they were reporting it out of a desire to be accurate or earnest or something. While the staff report claims it knew this, but in fact every city in the state in 2009 was trying to report only the true minimum number of spills, except San Bruno. I don't know why that happened. I'm just telling you I know it happened, and the State Water Board knows it happened, but they told me it's just their job to get the reports, and they didn't realize that some of them weren't applicable. The staff report overstates the projected costs and costs to date. For example, it says that more than $2.2 million was spent since 2009, but doesn't simple inspection of the staff's own graph reveal a lower total, unless you add in future estimates? Twice I requested the backup calculation for the cost graph. None is available to me. At the City Council study session on this ordinance, 4 members of the public spoke out against the ordinance. Another study session was scheduled but canceled. Could more public attendance be a concern or benefit? Now, immediately after the canceled meeting, the vote is agendized without more public input or publicly visible acts by council to even recommend agendizing a vote. Does this bring up an FPPC or ethics question? I believe the sewer staff here is skilled, but the city is farming out nearly all of their construction to private contractors, even simple repairs that used to be done by the city. Is this cost effective to have field workers and lots of heavy equipment if all they do is flush sewers? Staff has only one recommendation on this report today: provide direction for an alternative implementation date. Why not provide, as staff does in most staff reports, why not provide other alternatives instead of only one? Try, do not implement this ordinance, or correct the statements in the report that are incorrect, or think about what is best for the citizens and businesses. The staff recommendation has many mistakes. The action should be to keep the present lower lateral program. As I said, it's difficult to present such challenging news at the time you're considering a vote on this ordinance. I'm recommending that you not vote until staff tells you that all the information in that report is correct. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
No. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Good evening, council members. Jim Evangelist, 105 DeSoto Way. I also am recommending that you do not change this ordinance. It is the one ordinance in San Bruno, after all the sewer rate hikes that have been going on since 1997, that the residents actually see, in concrete terms, benefit them when they do have a compliant cleanout. One thing I'd like to address is Councilwoman O'Connell was concerned about the upper lateral and how that is not addressed by the current ordinance. Well, that's primarily because upper laterals don't often have problems. In my 11 years in the sewer department, it probably hovered around 1% to 2% of upper lateral problems. Why is that? There's a couple of reasons. One, many of the causes of lower lateral breakdowns are city-owned trees, other utilities out in the street that have done work there, damaging homeowners' pipes that aren't noticed until after the situation is already, the utility company has left, and then we get the call back to come back and fix it. So that's the reason most of the problems happen out in the street and not in the upper lateral. Also, at the study session, I rebuffed one of the cornerstones of the argument to give up this ordinance, which was to help the city escape reporting lower lateral SSOs. They have been doing that since 2008 incorrectly, I believe knowingly, because we challenged them as crew members. My colleagues and myself challenged management that it shouldn't be done that way. And in 2007, the previous management group did not report lower laterals. In fact, from 2004 to 2007, there were 18 SSOs reported in San Bruno. From 2007 to 2009, there were 130. And by the estimates of the department itself, 70% of those were lower laterals. So you can see the bind that this over-reporting put the city in. And that's why you're having to deal with this crisis right now. And when it really is not, it's a manufacturer crisis. The repairs being done right now, in fact, these lower laterals are usually decades old in terms of problems that these homeowners have been experiencing, and they're just now getting around to fixing them. Why weren't we doing repairs in 2007, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and 12? So, also, they're using the most expensive techniques to repair these lower laterals. Whereas in Millbrae, I've seen where they'll do trenchless repairs, and it's much less expensive. Throughout the United States, there are many small communities with the sewer crews that are in-house sewer crews are using this trenchless technology. Why aren't we using it here? I just think that this has been a manufactured situation by management in the sewer department. I think you need to do a lot more questioning to why things got to this state and what to do about keeping this a great program in place. Sure, they may need to have to increase the cost of contribution from the homeowners a little bit, not $9 a month that was recommended in here. And that can help support and sustain that individual program. But it's not, this program in and of itself doesn't need to be supported on its own merit. It's part of the sewer department. That's part of the money that everybody pays to have good services here in San Bruno. And now the one good service that people can actually see that benefits them is you're being asked to abandon.
Okay, I think you better wrap it up, Jim.
I'm done then.
Okay, thank you.
Marty Medina, Garden Avenue. I'd like to echo the statements. There's clearly something that's not right. If we were reporting something improperly that resulted in a fine, then we need to go back and get it right. If what you're hearing is true, then shouldn't we not go back and see if we can get the fine reduced, or go to the judge and say, hey, look, this wasn't right. The other thing is, for the increase that was voted on, for the sewer increase, 10% per year, it seems like we're paying for the increase, and now we're getting a reduction in the actual service that we used to have. Doesn't seem right. So, and the last thing would be if the meeting was canceled and there was no additional opportunity for the public to comment or to be involved in this study session, and then now it came up to a vote, that just doesn't seem right. So I hope you really think over what you're voting on tonight and just cool off. Thank you.
Thank you. Very briefly, Jim. Okay. Very briefly.
The one point made by Mark here was that this point of sale ordinance is going to impact this particular program. I don't see why it should. The reason that point of sale is being pushed by baykeepers all over the country is so that it doesn't put a burden on the sewer departments. These problems have to be taken care of at the point of sale. You can even have an amendment put into this ordinance that would have a look-back period, whereas if you didn't have, if you tried to get a clean out too close to the sale time so that you could have the city pick it up, the city could go back and get those costs recovered.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Russ Steins, Reed Avenue. I just wanted to bring up the point of the study session that was there, and it said that there was 2,700 laterals that the city is responsible for right now because they have proper cleanouts, and that based on the cost of $7,000 apiece, I think that was somewhere around $2.1 million, the money that we spent in repairing the 2,700 of them from 2009 and 2014. It seems that we could have just completely replaced them, and there would be absolutely no problem at this point. So just something for thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
How's it going? Mayor Ruane and honorable council members. Andy Mason, Cherry Avenue. I echo my fellow San Bruno residents' fears about this thing. I think that myself, my wife and I have a house from 1929. I'll spare the details, but I do actually snake my own lateral about every 6 months. There's a lot of weed growth and whatnot. It's in the original report in the study session. My issue is with use of public money and asking residents to take on a $9 a month private insurance company, a policy. So I think that myself included, and I know a lot of people feel this way, is that the city of San Bruno does awesome things, and we should keep that going. They've been doing great work since 1986. They've been collecting money from residents, people that have lived and worked in this society. They've paid into this system, and a lot of them are retired, and they're on a fixed income. Excuse me. And now you're going to pull this back and say, oh, here's this $9 a month plan. Here's a private insurance company we recommend, a third party. I'm not into the third party thing. I think that there are enough insurance companies out there. There's enough ads on TV. Let's get back to basics. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. We had a couple of questions this evening. The relationship of baykeepers, the SSOs, how they were reported, how they weren't reported, is the difference significant? Is that what got us into the baykeepers situation and what we're mandated to do, first of all? And I think it's two separate issues, but I'd like an answer to that if we could.
Sure. I'm happy to answer that question. First of all, the staff report I believe, and I went back and looked at it just a moment ago, does not indicate that the city knew that it was misreporting. We have recently determined that, frankly, as a result of Mr. Evangelist's commentary at a previous meeting, we have confirmed with the regional board the information that Mr. Evangelist himself had discussed with the regional board and reported to you at your study session a few weeks ago. The short answer to your question, however, is no. One single SSO violation is sufficient to attract the attention of the regional board and of the baykeepers, who, as you know, have periodically made the rounds of all cities in a given area. It was San Mateo County's turn in the barrel a few years back, and we were one of many cities against whom regional board enforcement was made and baykeepers' lawsuits were initiated and then settled. This city, based on its reporting, had one of the highest SSO levels during a couple of particular years that I'm not remembering at this moment in our region and I believe within the state. That situation may have been was exacerbated by the reporting of private sewer lateral overflows that we now understand are not mandated reporting, they are voluntary reporting. However, the enforcement action and the baykeepers' lawsuit were, it pains me to say this, but were righteous regardless because they did address legitimate sanitary sewer overflows, which are the city's responsibility. Had you taken the private sewer lateral numbers out, we still would have reported a significant number of overflows that would have resulted in the regional board enforcement and the baykeepers' lawsuit, or at least would very likely, given that level of activity at that time, would have very likely resulted in exactly the same result. I hope that answers the question.
Answers enough for me. I know there's a question or a comment about trenchless. I had to do my own sewer lateral last year. They couldn't trench it, so they had to dig it all up, and so I don't think the lack of effort is out there. Maybe you suggested. I think they do what they can do to keep the cost down, but it cost me twice as much because we had to actually dig it up. So that happens a lot.
If I may interject there, this issue has been raised before, and I just want to make sure that the City Council remembers and that the public is informed that the city does use a variety of different technologies, including trenchless technology, where that is an appropriate, cost-effective, and desirable methodology. We also have used, if you may recall, fairly recently, a slip lining technique in a particular location where even the pipe bursting trenchless technology would have been disruptive to the area. This particular pipe actually went under somebody's house. So we are aware and we use those technologies when and where they are applicable and economical.
The comment was also made about the increase. I think the figure that was thrown out was 10% per year for increase in our sewer rates and the charges. And it was sort of alluded to, this had a lot to do with our cost for repairing lower laterals. I want staff to explain to everyone here, if they don't know, it's a lot more than that. We're doing some major sewer repairs and major pipeline repairs in the city, way over and above just sewer laterals.
Yes, it is true that the city is in the middle of a 5-year rate program that increases sanitary sewer rates by approximately 10% each year over those 5-year period. I believe we're in the 3rd year of that program that was approved a number of years ago by the City Council. That rate covers the whole range of sewer operation and capital needs in the community, including a full rebuild of the aging, deteriorating, and many areas substandard sewer collection system in this community over a 20-year period of time. We are actively in the process of replacing main lines, pump stations, and other sewer-related facilities as part of that program. And again, are anticipating a work program that will extend over the next 20 years. That program costs, has a very high price tag, and that price tag is reflected comprehensively in the rates. I think it is fair to say that there is some amount of the funds that need to be collected and have been anticipated in the rate program that are dedicated to the expected or previous level of lateral repairs. But as the chart in your staff report shows, there has been a significant upward trend, particularly in the last couple of years, that is alarming to staff and indicative of a future trend that this policy change attempts to get ahead of, instead of trailing to the point where when we come back to you with the need to revise rates, we don't have to suggest that this particular activity has increased in cost so much that the rates need to go up by an additional amount to cover the cost of this program. I hope that part's clear. And I wanted to also address the allegation that the staff report misstates repair costs. What was identified in the staff report was an approximate $2.2 million cost since 2009. And the attempt in the staff report was simply to represent a comparison to the amount at 60 cents per month that has been collected historically over the last 28 years based on the 1986 resolution, compared to the costs that have been incurred just in the last few years since 2009. Those costs are comparable. So amounts collected over 28 years has been expended in the last approximate 5 years. That's what the staff report attempted to demonstrate, and that is shown on the chart if you add up the costs each year since 2009.
Okay. And just for clarification, there is a recommendation of a firm, potential firm, to use if, in fact, you want voluntarily to pay $9 a month. It's not mandated at all. I believe another city, I think it's South City around here, uses them, and they're nationally known. So it's just a pure suggestion on the part of the city. It's not mandated by any way, shape, or form. So it's just an offer out there and a suggestion if, in fact, you want to do it. So it's not we're raising $9 a month at all. You don't have to do it at all. So
That's correct.
right, okay.
If I may make one more comment, Mr. Mayor, and that is that this item is not presented for a vote this evening. If your direction or guidance is that this item come back, it would be presented for a first reading and then a second reading at 2 subsequent meetings. That's the process for implementation of a new ordinance, and as is our practice with new ordinances or changes to ordinances, we are bringing this to you tonight for your understanding, your review, and any discussion that you might wish to have. And that is the reason that the staff report indicates that this item is being brought forward with no action intended, and it is our practice that when we're not asking you to take any action, we're not asking you to actively consider alternatives. So it was not a deliberate omission. It was part of our normal practice. We'd be happy to provide thoughtful alternatives with our next presentation should we move forward.
Okay. You've all heard the report. Would anyone like to chime in on direction to staff? Ken?
I have a real problem with taking a program that's been going on for many years, many decades, and then just pulling the plug and putting the responsibility on the homeowner. And so until there is and a staff report, and I highly respect our staff and as far as giving us the true picture, but because we feel that it's going to be alarmingly or it's going to increase over the next few years, or it's not enough reason for me to dump the program. I don't think it's a problem to spend $1 million on our community for sewer laterals, and I have a real problem with point of sale, and I voted as such. So until I can get another option as to how we share in the costs, and I even had listening to a resident say that maybe we ought to bring that 60-cent assessment to today's standards, or at least increase it. I can't approve of something like this.
Okay,
so I can't give a direction.
All right. Rico, anything?
I know that there are things within, and I appreciate the report and information. I appreciate the public's information that brings, I think, great questions. So we can always, obviously, better. All eyes on it is better than only some. I have things in here about if this were to go forward, is the 60 cents going to be taken off the bill? The staff time, I know, so there's one of my questions. It's not a suggestion here, but it's my question. The staff time, it mentions in here that time needs to be spent for other activities and things that aren't getting done. Well, what are those things and why aren't they getting done? And how long has that been going on? Because that to me is a savings. If we're not doing a part of a program, then we're saving in a department. And that is an enterprise funds that, to me, should then go back to the ratepayers. I do know that having a suggested implementation of May of 2015, I'm concerned with that. It's right around the corner with rolling out something else. I think there are enough questions that have been raised here that I think it needs to go back, and I was taking, as quick as I could, some of the notes of the speakers. And so, as we found out on the SSO reporting, what's done is done. I get that. But at the same time, it's been brought forward that there was something that obviously we miscalculated on. So I think we need to make sure we do our due diligence. I think we need to make sure we're transparent. I think we need to get the facts on the table and come with some options. So I'm not prepared at this time to go forward with stopping the program.
Yeah. Irene?
Such a lot of things. First of all, I'd like to make sure I'm getting this information correctly and that everyone else is. When we say that this program benefits people, let's be really clear. It only benefits people who have, and please staff, correct me if I'm wrong, who have the proper cleanouts, and it only benefits them from the cleanout to the lower lateral part. So if they have a problem, if you have your sewer lateral and you have a problem in it, it's your responsibility if you have no cleanout, the whole thing, correct? So it doesn't matter if you pay 60 cents for the last 30 years or not. It's your responsibility. It doesn't matter if you go forward and spend $9 additional a month to the city and not an insurance program. It's your responsibility. So all those people out there now who have been paying all those years, and I've owned my house since 1976, and my mother's owned hers since 1956. They've been paying all that money all those times, and none of us have benefited from it. And I had to replace my sewer lateral, and it could not be a trenchless because of the configuration. So when people say it's the only thing that people can see that they benefit from their sewer rates, I think that's a total misconception. So that's one thing. Second, it's not a dumping of a program per se. If you have an emergency our city crew will still come out and do what they can. They're not going to abandon you if you have an emergency. They'll come out. But it's your property. It's your responsibility. Your insurance, if we pay hundreds of dollars every month for house insurance, car insurance, health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, and how many of us use it in a month? This is like the bargain of the year. $9? I mean, you pay that much for 3 lattes. No, 2.5. But anyway, and you don't have to do it if you don't want to, because if you feel like gambling that you're not going to lose your sewer lateral, then don't do it. But if the city continues to keep that responsibility, and we have to increase your rates, everybody has to pay it, if you benefit or not. So I appreciate staff's time. I understand everyone does their very best to give us the accurate information. I personally realize I want to know how many sewer overflows we've had. I don't care where they are. That's a health hazard, people. Your dog walks through that, your kids walk through that, you bicycle through that. It's not a pretty picture. I want to know where they are. I want us to take care of them. So obviously I'm for going forward with this.
Okay, Michael?
Thank you. It seems like every time this comes up, I feel less certain. When we first discussed this in subcommittee, I was like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's not working. Let's get rid of it. But a lot of good points have been made, and I have to say I'm not really sure about the savings anymore. I mean, we're going to continue to do a lot of maintenance on these laterals. We're not going to replace them, and I don't understand what percentage of our overall cost right now has been for replacement versus repair. Now, if we're doing a lot of repairs, that's not really going to change just because we change this program. We're still going to respond to these. There's going to be, and I'm thinking over time, probably more responses to spills because there is no proactive maintenance anymore. Whereas now we have a proactive maintenance program, that's going to go completely away, and the only reason the city will ever be involved is because there's sewage on the street. So I could see that getting worse over time. I'd like to see some more details around the SSOs that led to our fine, and I know that there was still a significant number of them, but I would like to see the actual numbers that triggered our predicament. So that for that specific year, I'd like to see what that breakdown was. And I guess maybe for the last year, I'd also like to see a breakdown of how many laterals were replaced as part of this program versus how much of that cost was incurred just to responding to events and cleaning up and possibly clearing those. Just so I can have a better idea of how we're spending that money, and I can maybe make a little more sense on how these savings are being projected, because I'm not quite so sure now that we are going to save any money unless it's all about the replacement costs. I'm wondering too if for the pipes where there is a clean out, I'm assuming those clean outs are going in with a new lateral or a section of lateral, so those are probably less likely to get clogged versus ones that are completely unaddressed. So if this program incentivizes people to do some work, even if we're taking on a little bit of proactive cleaning of that system, it's still a system that's newer and in a lot of cases going to cause us less problems in the future versus having to respond to the ones that have never been touched because nobody had an incentive to do anything with them. I know the cost is growing and I know it's a concern, but I'm wondering if we might not be creating a bigger problem. So I really do think we need to pick this apart a little more and really get an understanding of the mechanics of what we're responding to and what's causing those things.
Okay. Sounds like the majority of the council wants a little more information. For me, I think it's a good program going forward. I know Michael said something about how much maintenance is going on now. The people that are being monitored are the people that have replaced or have put in the clean out. When I put in mine, they maintain my lateral from the clean out to the street. And that lateral was not replaced, so it's still there. And the city comes by, I think it's every 6 months, and takes a look, does a little camera thing, does a little, twisting inside that pipe if that's what they have to do. And that's times, I don't know how many people, in the hundreds probably, that have done that. That's going to increase just simply because the infrastructure is aging, and we're going to be dealing with a lot more of that. And that, in fact, will take crews away from other things, whatever those things happen to be. It sounds to me like the majority of the council wants to know what those other things are, and Michael wants some more specific detail about some costs. So if it were up to me this evening, I'd say let's get it done, but it's not, because there's 5 of us. So the soonest you can bring back that information, the sooner we can take some serious action on this.
If I might make a suggestion that we take this back to the Utilities Subcommittee, we had a recent study session on this topic. We can certainly do what is the City Council's pleasure. If you'd like it back to the full City Council as the next step, we're happy to do that as well.
I think the subcommittee's good, because I think Michael said he heard certain things, and now he's getting a little more hesitant, so I think we should, and he's on the committee, is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We should find out from you to staff what you want, and let's get those things answered so we have more specific information.
Okay, we've attempted to make note of all of the issues and would encourage council members, if you have additional thoughts, if we could receive those, then we will address them accordingly.
Okay, that'd be great. All right, thank you. Item 10E, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with National Plant Services, Inc. for closed-circuit television CCTV inspection of sanitary sewer laterals in the Sharp Park Basin in an amount not to exceed $54,214.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Jimmy Tan, City Engineer. As part of the settlement agreement with the Regional Water Quality Control Board in May of 2011, the city was required to complete 2 supplemental environmental projects, one for the construction of the shade structures for the Marine Mammal Center in Sausalito, California, and the other is the Sharp Park Private Sewer Lateral Grant Program. The shade structure was completed in October 2011, and for the Sharp Park Sewer Lateral Grant Program, the city was required to set aside $199,622, which the city funded. The Sharp Park Basin is shown in the screen with the boundary highlighted in green. It was selected for the lateral program because the Sharp Park Sewer Pump Station was the site of 2 large sanitary sewer overflows during heavy storms back in January of 2008. Reducing the inflow and infiltration will help prevent future sanitary sewer overflows in this area, and also lessen the overall impact on the city's sewer collection system. So intent of the grant program is to encourage the private property owners to replace old sewer laterals that may be the source of rainwater or groundwater flowing into the sewer collection system. And the Water Board established a target of 115 sewer laterals to be replaced within this Sharp Park Basin. And this program commenced back in September 2012, and several outreach programs were established and to notify the homeowners that's living in the area. There are a total of 305 homes within this Sharp Park Basin. So the grant program incentive includes reimbursing the homeowners with 50% of the costs, or up to a maximum of $150 for the video inspection work, and 50% of the costs, or up to a maximum of $1,700 for the lateral replacement. These amounts were negotiated with the regional board as part of the established of the grant program. Since the program started, a total of 5 properties owners have participated. and this agreement with the regional board is set to expire in October 1st, 2015. If the city does not meet the criteria of replacing the 110 sewer laterals, the remaining funds of $190,000 that are allocated will be paid back to the state cleanup and abatement account as part of the agreement. So we discussed this project with the utility subcommittee back in November, and several alternatives were reviewed. One was to request a time extension with the regional board to continue the program. The other was to possibly increase the grant reimbursement incentive to complete the replacement of the remaining 110 sewer laterals, and also to continue the public outreach within this sewer basin. And the last item was to perform a CCTV inspection of the sewer laterals to determine how many defective laterals exist within the 305 homes in the Sharp Park Basin, and use this information to further encourage the property owners to take advantage of the program. The city contacted the water board and to request a time extension, and which was granted until October of 2017. This time extension will allow the staff to review the video information and perform additional public outreach to homeowners for replacement of these remaining 110 sewer laterals. In regards to the increasing the reimbursement incentive, the agreement with the water board is based on the number of sewer laterals replaced, not on the reimbursement incentive amount. So the water board didn't have any objections if the city wanted to increase the incentive amount of the program. But any increase, cannot be applied against the settlement agreement. Therefore, the increase in the grant amount would be, if the city pursues with that option, the city would have to fund that separately. So the current focus is to hire a company to televise the sewer laterals to determine how many defects in the remaining 305 properties. And the request for proposals was issued back in December 2014, and the city received 4 proposals and selected them or evaluated them based on the company's qualifications, in adherence to the objectives of the scope of work and qualifications of the project manager and their team, and then the innovative approach to reduce the overall cost of the CCTV inspection work. And its cost proposals that we received range between $54,000 to $112,000. So based on the evaluation, staff is recommending to award the project to National Plant Services to provide the CCTV inspection. The company is located or headquartered in Long Beach, but the regional manager is located in Walnut Creek. This company is part of the oldest and largest environmental services corporation in the United States. They have performed various CCTV inspections for other agencies like the City of Roseville, City of Alameda, and Shasta Lake. And the scope of work for this project will include cleaning of the sewer main lines, performing CCTV inspection of the sewer laterals, and providing the digital inspection videos as well as the inspection reports, and preparing drawing sketches showing the approximate location of the sewer laterals on each property. And staff estimates this inspection work to be completed by 2015, June of 2015. And prior to commencement of this project, staff will coordinate and reach out to the homeowners within the Sharp Park Basin to inform them about the project and the schedule. This project is an established CIP project with an appropriation of $65,000 from the Wastewater Capital Fund. The proposed CCTV contract with National Plant Services for $54,214, which is within the limits of the appropriation. Staff has also asked whether or not, if we do move forward with this project, do we get any credit back for this video inspection work from the grant funds? And the regional board denied that request. So this cost is in addition to the $199,622 that has been set aside for this the grant program. So therefore, staff is recommending to the council to adopt the resolution to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with National Plant Services for CCTV inspection of the sewer laterals in the Sharp Park Basin.
Good. Any questions of staff? Ken?
Through the chair. So just to be clear, there are 310 residences in that neighborhood. 5 have been laterals have been replaced, so, and hence the staff report saying 305 remaining.
Correct.
How many have cleanouts at the property line?
That I can't, I have no answer to that because it hasn't been surveyed. But as part of the CCTV inspection work, I think we would definitely have that number for you.
Your assumption, because it is a fairly new subdivision, what would you guess most of the cleanouts are either outside of the house or close to the property line?
Correct. Normally, it's set back behind the sidewalk near the property line.
Yeah.
And so, with these newer developments, then clean out would be, installed, but it needs to be verified.
So the goal here is to expend all this money, or if we don't, it goes to a state fund. So it's incumbent that we use it in that neighborhood. And obviously, we want to get some people to, some homeowners to share in that, and you're looking at 110 because the baykeepers want 115, so we've done 5. And if we don't, do we have a plan as to how how you would do that? Is that all the sewer talk is just confusing me.
So let me try and answer that. One thing that the city engineer did not indicate in his comments was included, or at least I didn't hear it, was included in previous reports, is our outreach efforts to this neighborhood have included staff in the wastewater division literally going door to door and trying to generate interest among homeowners to take advantage of a $1,700 grant. For a variety of reasons, people have, but one of them we think is that this is a too low amount given the actual cost of, the potential cost of sewer lateral replacement. So this is really our attempt to think of everything we can possibly think of to try and spur interest and activity so that our money can be spent in a productive manner in San Bruno. You do have a very clear option simply to say, we've given it our best shot, but we'll continue to do outreach. We'll continue, maybe go door to door again. We can, there may be some other things that we can think of, but there remains, even with this expenditure, some probability that we're going to be giving money to the state, which was our vigorous effort to avoid.
Unless we decide to supplement.
If you decide to supplement, but that would be a potentially more, yes, we can definitely do that. We thought this, if somebody came to my door and showed me a video picture and an analysis that said your lateral is very, very problematic, even though you may not be experiencing problems right now, let me show you a picture of what this thing is doing under your ground. We sort of think that might be a little more compelling than a conversation at the door.
But if I could just follow up, the discussion 20 minutes ago was about if we had that's why I asked the question, do you know how many have a sewer cleanout?
Yeah, we do not.
Yeah.
We do not know
because
the answer
if you
to
came to my door and says, the video says it looks bad and everything, I'm going to say, well, I got a cleanout out there, so City of San Bruno, fix it.
Could happen.
Thank you.
To the chair, really quick, I know there was a neighborhood meeting that we attended, or I stopped in, but there was a email chain. I know I'm on it. I can go back in and get it. I don't know if it would be of value also to reach back out. The neighbors had all that were there put an email group together, and they were talking about videoing. I'd be interested to see how many of them have actually went ahead and did that. They were trying to collaborate and get one company to do all of them and then reduce the costs. So my reason for saying that is you may want to go out and see what has worked. Are they really beyond that point? Have they all done the videos and they say, forget it? I know in the city of San Mateo, they have the program where they incentivize individuals to go ahead and be proactive, and I know they stopped taking applications or approvals in February of this year because the money's spent. So there are things that other communities are doing and that can do that I think maybe if we just tweak a little bit or find out from those individuals that were there that night what their status is.
And the meeting that we had, I think it was in May, we did get some activity, pretty vigorous activity after the meeting regarding videos, and we had, as memory serves, about 5 to 8 people that got together and hired a company, and the same company, and went out and did the videotape. And out of that, we had one sewer lateral replacement and one grant reimbursement. So of those 5 to 8, one of them I remember saying, well, it's not too bad. The plumber said, there's a couple little things in there that weren't ideal, but it's not going to fail and anytime soon. So again, we could do a number of things. Another public meeting, going door to door was very effective, at least putting the information out there, and it's just an ongoing challenge. We've reached out to the water board and asked what other agencies have done, and I've spoken to several agencies to ask them how they've gotten their SEP programs to be successful, and some of them have done some mandatory replacements as part of paving projects. Others have offered increased grant funds. So it's sort of all over the place.
And I would say your door-to-door education campaign, whatever the word you want to use, were so successful that night that there were people outside the perimeter because somebody across the street had told them about this meeting, and so they came, and then became a little like, oh wow, so I live across the street, it can't include me. No, sorry. So yes, it was so effective that you even had people that weren't eligible, but it was effective.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? No? You have a comment?
Jim Evangelist, 105 DeSoto Way. I think a little historical perspective on this neighborhood up here. In the 11 years I worked there, and I have a colleague who worked at San Bruno Wastewater for 20, their lateral problems almost are non-existent. That's why the homeowners are sort of like, well, why are you bothering me about this? Because they don't really have a lot of lower lateral, upper lateral problems. The main problem, the reason this SCP was put in place is because in 2008, at least this is my contention, there was a 756,000 gallon overflow out of that pump station at Chart Park. And that was caused because of I&I, inflow and infiltration. This is the negotiated settlement from the wastewater management with the state. I'm not going to pass judgment on whether or not it was a good settlement, but this is what we're kind of stuck with as a city. It's really about the I&I into that lift station and the inability of that lift station to handle all the water that comes in. The assumption was, I think, during the negotiations, is that if we can get a hold of these laterals, we'll reduce the amount of water coming in during a storm to the pump station, and it will be able to be shipped away without causing an overflow. But it's not addressing probably the main cause, which is the sewer mains in that whole neighborhood, which will collect a lot more water than the laterals. At least I think it will. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any action by the council?
There are methods to check the mains without a lot of effort. You can TV those and do it before a rain and then during a rain, and see where the water seems to be coming. You'll probably see it coming right through cracks. When mains fail, sometimes they fail from a point load. You can see the top, for example, is just collapsed. But more likely you'll see a crack along the pipe and water will just spew in there. And it does it very, very effectively because it has essentially water from the top of the street down to the bottom of the pipe. So there's a lot of pressure behind it. and that's the way you get big flows into it. So if you wait the next rain, if you have TV equipment and you check those pipes, you may find out an awful lot by yourself. I would think with a good TV crew, you could cover the whole area during one storm. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Once again, Michael?
One quick question. Do we have any video of the sewer mains in that area?
We do, yes.
And was there anything apparent in there? Any large defects that could be causing a lot of infiltration?
To our knowledge, no, there's no large defects, but as part of this project, the mains will be televised as well as the laterals. So we'll have two dual inspection that are being done as part of this one project.
Okay, we're getting a little off track here, so I think you had your time. You had your time, Jim. Thank you very much.
That's it?
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Any more discussion or action by the council? Irene?
Thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate you for getting the extension. That's great news because we were sweating it out on the subcommittee level when we were discussing this, and we did have an extensive discussion. I think people have to keep in mind we have to do something or lose the money, and I personally, I'm sure the rest of the council would prefer that we keep the money in San Bruno. And the solution to doing that is getting people to fix sewer laterals, and how to find out if they need their sewer laterals fixed is to televise them or videotape them. So unless there's more discussion, I would like to introduce a resolution to go forward with this program.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 11, reports of commissions, boards, and committees. We already had that report. Item 12, comments from council members. Anyone? I have two things. First of all, I was asked to attend a big seminar today at Walmart on sustainability, and they had people from literally all over the country and all over the world there. Very, very interesting, and I want to thank Walmart. So it would be worth your while to look up Walmart sustainability online and see some of the things that they're doing now and they are planning on doing in the future. Also, just a little congratulations to a fellow that I mentioned about 3 years ago. His name is James Hahn, and he was at the time a San Bruno resident who happened to qualify for the U.S. Open, didn't make the cut. But this weekend, now he's no longer a resident of San Bruno, he won the Northern Trust Open and pocketed $1.2 million, whereas a couple of years ago he had $200 in his bank account. So congratulations to James Hahn. Closed session, item 13, public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, City Attorney. Mark, if it's okay, we would like to put this off until the next meeting, considering the hour, because we need to spend some real decent time with you.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, right. Adjournment. Tonight's adjournment I'd like to do in memory of Rob Randolph. And Ken, could you tell us a little bit about Rob?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a lot of us met Rob Randolph after the gas explosion. His family lived within houses, a couple houses behind the explosion. They had a large chunk of the street fall through their second-story roof. If that's not bad enough, Rob had cancer and was dealing with that all through, since I've known him, since I met him nearly 5 years ago. Rob died last week, February 19th, and I just asked his wife, Millette, what more can I say? And she was honored that we would honor him tonight. He was a loving son, a wonderful father, and an amazing husband. He was a friend to everyone. He fought hard, and he died exactly how he wanted, doing what he loved most, being with his family. He will forever be missed.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned until the next City Council meeting right here on March 10th.